A police officer drives slowly down a dimly lit street, scanning his surroundings. It's a quiet night. Nothing unusual, until his eyes catch the black SUV ahead. It drifts slightly to the side before correcting. His instincts kick in. Maybe the driver is distracted, maybe they're under the influence. Without hesitation, he flicks on his lights and siren, signaling the vehicle to pull over. The SUV glides to a smooth stop at the curb. The officer parks behind it, stepping out cautiously, adjusting his belt as his hand instinctively rests near his holster. Inside the SUV, the driver remains calm, her hands resting on the wheel, fingers slightly curled. She watches through the side mirror as the officer approaches, his face unreadable under the glow of the streetlights. He taps the window, and she rolls it down without hesitation. His eyes sweep over her, noting her professional attire, but he remains guarded. "License and registration," he says, his voice firm but controlled. She doesn't argue, reaching slowly toward her glove compartment. "Is there a problem, officer?" she asks, her voice steady, not a hint of fear, but not of submission either. The officer doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he studies her face, searching for something, nervousness, guilt, anything that might justify his stop. When she hands him the documents, his gaze lingers on her fingers, watching for any tremor, any sign of deception. There's nothing, just composure. He glances at the license, then freezes. Alongside it, gleaming under the streetlight, is an FBI badge. His grip tightens slightly, his heartbeat quickening. A million thoughts race through his mind, but he keeps his face neutral. "Stay put," he orders, turning toward his patrol car. But something about this stop already feels different. The officer walks back to his patrol car, gripping the woman's license and FBI badge tighter than necessary. His mind races. He wasn't expecting this. He had assumed a routine stop, maybe a minor infraction, but now he's dealing with someone who holds more authority than he does. His instincts tell him to proceed with caution, but a lingering doubt creeps in. How does he know the badge is real? He radios in to verify her credentials, keeping his eyes locked on the SUV. Inside the vehicle, the woman watches him through her rearview mirror, her expression unreadable. She's been in situations like this before. She knows how these encounters can go. Taking a slow breath, she keeps her hands visible, her posture relaxed, but ready. When she sees the officer turn back toward her, his posture is stiffer, his steps more deliberate. The officer stops just short of her window, shifting his stance. "Step out of the vehicle," he orders, his tone firmer than before. The woman's eyes narrow slightly. "May I ask why?" "Step out of the vehicle," he repeats, this time resting a hand near his holster. For a long second, neither of them moves. Then, with controlled precision, she unbuckles her seatbelt and pushes open the door. As she stands, the glow from a nearby streetlight catches the badge still resting in her hand. The officer notices it, but his expression doesn't change. Before she can say anything, another patrol car pulls up behind them, red and blue lights flashing against the darkness. Another officer steps out, younger, with a tense energy radiating from him. He assesses the situation quickly, his eyes flicking from the woman to his colleague. He doesn't ask questions. Instead, his hand goes to his taser. The woman exhales, already knowing where this is going. "You're making a mistake," she says, her voice calm but firm. Neither officer responds. The younger one takes another step forward, his grip tightening. The original officer hesitates, something in his expression wavering. The weight of the moment is pressing down, and he knows that whatever happens next will define this encounter forever. The original officer feels the weight of the situation pressing down on him. His mind is racing. He wasn't expecting this. His training taught him to stay in control, but right now, control is slipping through his fingers. He glances at the woman standing in front of him, calm, collected, and clearly unshaken. His gut tells him he's made a mistake, but the presence of his backup complicates things. The younger officer is tense, his hand still hovering near his taser, waiting for a cue to act. The air is thick with unspoken tension. The original officer reaches for his radio, his voice coming out tighter than he intended. "Dispatch, I need a confirmation on an FBI badge number." He rattles off the digits from the woman's credentials, his heart pounding as he waits for a response. Every second feels stretched. The woman doesn't move. She doesn't need to. She already knows what's coming. A crackle through the radio breaks the silence. "Confirmed. That's Special Agent Michelle Carter, FBI." The words hit like a punch to the gut. The younger officer's posture stiffens. The original officer feels his breath catch, his grip tightening on his belt. For the first time, real uncertainty flashes across his face. The power dynamic has shifted in an instant. He's no longer the one holding authority here. The woman doesn't say anything at first. She simply watches him, letting the truth sink in. The younger officer's fingers twitch near his taser before he quickly drops his hand, taking an uneasy step back. The original officer swallows hard. "Ma'am, He stops himself, unsure how to continue. Apologies don't feel like enough. Agent Carter tilts her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "You should have asked questions first," she says, her voice calm but cutting. "Not assumed the worst." The younger officer shifts awkwardly, avoiding eye contact. The original officer lets out a slow breath, the full weight of his misjudgment settling over him. This moment will haunt him, not just because of what happened, but because he knows it could have gone much worse. Agent Carter watches the officers in silence, letting the tension settle around them. She doesn't need to say much. She can see it in their faces. The weight of their mistake is sinking in. The younger officer looks anywhere but at her, his jaw tight, his hands fidgeting at his sides. The original officer stands frozen, his mouth slightly open as if searching for the right words. Apologies won't change what happened. Excuses won't undo the assumptions that led to this moment. She exhales slowly, then steps forward, closing the distance between them just enough to make them uncomfortable. "This is exactly why we need better training," she says, her voice low but firm. "Not just for the people you stop, but for yourselves." The original officer swallows hard, nodding slightly, but she can tell he's still processing. His eyes flicker with something, guilt maybe, or regret. The younger officer shifts awkwardly, his fingers twitching like he wants to grab his radio just to have something to do. Neither of them speaks. She holds their gaze for a moment longer before turning back to her SUV. She moves with the same controlled confidence she had from the beginning, sliding into the driver's seat without another word. The door shuts with a soft but final click. The officers remain standing as she starts the engine. The original officer watches as the taillights glow red, illuminating the pavement in front of him. He knows he'll think about this moment for a long time. As Agent Carter pulls away, she glances in her rearview mirror one last time. The two officers still stand frozen in place, staring after her like they're replaying the entire encounter in their heads. She doesn't feel anger, just exhaustion, because she knows this isn't the first time something like this has happened, and it won't be the last.